Hey!
Hey!
What's going
Hello!
on? Oh, that's a
Not
huge,
too much. Hello, guys!
huge sound spike straight off the bat. Welcome, dudes and dudettes. We are the Witchbolt Wanderers. I am the Pitmidget, also known as Caleb.
And I'm the Drunken Pirate, known as Chris.
Alright, or the other way around, even.
Whichever way we worked it out.
Well, welcome to the Witchbolt Wanderers Very Ghetto Vodcast, Episode 1, Blustering Barbarians.
Blustering Barbarians, indeed. And we will tonight be talking about a couple of different barbarians and an introduction to class.
Of course, we mean in D&D as well, as you could probably tell by the title. Probably should have mentioned that. That information would have been...
not real life, go out, kill people, get...
An
like, we can cover that if people really want to cover it, but we can.
I don't think we should cover it. I think that's
no.
That's tainted ground.
Yeah.
That'll get a bit dark. Anyway, this will be the first episode of a series in which we sort of go in depth and have a chat about all the vanilla classes in D&D 5e rather than the supplementary classes. We'll probably do those later on, I reckon, but for now we'll just focus on the basics.
We might see if there's any gaps and work out if there's a need for like some of the new classes that have come out in the more recent books, and kind of being able to play around with those ideas and see where they kind of grow and develop.
Absolutely. Future goals.
Yeah.
Yo.
Future goals.
Future
this
goals.
Is we're setting new ground. We'll be hitting there in 6 months, a year, something like that. We'll be down. We'll be 100 episodes in.
Yeah.
Talking about all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
100 episodes.
100 episodes. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
And we'll also
be
doing other things. Like we'll be talking about game companies that we like and games that we like.
Sci-fi shows.
Sci-fi shows, absolutely. But they'll be part of a different series, I suppose. But yeah. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Barbarians, bunch of crazy motherfuckers. Let's delineate what is a barbarian in D&D. What would you say a barbarian is in D&D?
A barbarian in D&D is the hard-hitting, rumble-tumble, not really having to do much more than hit things in the face and having that opportunity to just mess around, have fun, and like you do feel the consequences of what you do and the party that you're playing with, and of course you're going to have to work in with that party, but it is that this is what this character would do, so I'm going to do it and feel the consequences of it later, and I don't really care. And as long as you can play that in a positive way, it is exactly what that character is made for.
Oh, dude, man, you could play that in a way that is in no way positive, and it would still be amazing.
Oh, yeah,
and that's from my perspective, being a dungeon master as well. I love them. Like what barbarians? What the handbook would tell you, barbarians are they're mighty warriors that live outside the fringes of civilization and stuff like that. Considered uncouth by those who live in more urbane environments and stuff like that. And like you said, they're rumble-tumble, crazy people that just charge into any situation, usually without thought.
Yeah.
I've yet to have a player in any one of my groups that doesn't play a barbarian that way, to be completely honest.
That's always how I play them. I love them. Like if you're just like, I want to try D&D, and this is something that you kind of go, ooh, this sounds like fun. I get to smash things. I get to rage. I get to live free and be a noble warrior or a crazy outlaw or whatever you want. It's a good character to start on, and I think the way that I've always seen it is a character from a player's perspective. It's always one that you can kind of just jump into and find a skin around and build that character's lore really easily without too much complications, as you might find. As we go into other classes, there'll be other issues and sort of tropes you're going to have to deal with the more complicated wizards and paladins and all the lore that you have to be aware of when you're making those types of characters.
Yeah, and like the fact that you have to memorize all those spells as well becomes a bit of a pain. It's always really nice when you have a player cracking open the beers. Are we?
Yeah, it's great.
Nice. It's always
I was
nice.
trying to do that discreetly.
I was just gonna go off on a bit of a tangent concerning the more
Yeah.
complicated classes, but it's always
Yeah,
really
go on.
nice to have people who know their spells beforehand, because it can get quite grating when you're having a really good flow going in the game, and then someone's like, "Oh, I want to cast this spell. Let me open my book and look for the spell and read it all out." But the thing about barbarians, as you said, is you don't have any of that. All you have are your weapons and your rage, and you just charge in willy-nilly, slicing people left, right, and center, getting into brawls, jumping through windows, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I love it. I love having barbarians in my groups, and every single one of my groups has a barbarian in them. One has two. One of my groups has two barbarians.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, dude. It's so hard to like contend with, because they're always
the Danger Brothers.
They're always just doing stuff. one's a berserker, one's a what's the other one called? Totem warrior.
Totem Warrior, yeah.
So it's good that I have the two in there. The berserker is just ridiculous though. It just trivializes any battle encounter that I go up. Well, both of them combined kind of trivialized all my encounters, but berserker is insane. It's just gnarly. We'll get into that later though, of course.
Right. I think we can try and just start to... Do we want to delve into the characters first, or do we want to just kind of go over what the elements the barbarian are and the build that you kind of go off, and we can have a look at that?
I reckon I have a bit of an itinerary. We can go off that whenever we need to. How about we just go into like what we personally think about barbarians outside of that? Because you mentioned before that they're good for beginners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In the previous stuff. I personally think that the class, and this is not really a criticism, more just me nitpicking, but it's just a terrible name, because barbarians are a demographic of individuals rather than like a crazy warrior.
And I think by putting the name barbarian on it, it doesn't really spell noble warrior, but because there is also the cleric and there's also the paladin, and trying to find something that's more of just a strong fighter.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not called a fighter. It just had to fall into that more basic attribute rather than being a fighter.
Agreed. Because like on at first glance, the class sort of reads out more like a berserker, like a Viking berserker warrior, just someone who rages and uses that battle rage to perform mighty deeds in whatever way they want, really. What we can both agree on, though, obviously, is that they're bloody awesome. They're so good. I love them.
Yeah, I think I've said this out of cast to you, that I think every time I play a new system, I find the most basic character I can, which usually ends up being your barbarian, your depending on your background, like anything that literally you don't have to think too much, so you can enjoy the story more than anything else. And I think as a player, like that's my perspective on it. If you can find something where you can just build your skin, build your background, and enjoy the role playing aspect of it, and you can play to your strengths as a player. So finding something that's far enough away from home that you're not bringing yourself into the game, but being able to build a character that you can pull on your own traits, that you're not completely uncomfortable playing on that you can kind of be like, oh, okay, cool, this is how this character would do it, and seeing through their eyes is a great aspect in theater as well as D&D, which I think is a great way to hone some of those like improv skills
Yeah,
and
totally.
things like that. Really just make D&D an actual useful tool for people.
Yeah, and then from there you can sort of branch out and try some more intricate things. Also, I would imagine I rarely get the chance to play characters myself. I'm usually just running games, but
this is where we
that.
diverse. You're always the DM. I need players to DM or like So
totally.
I'm always trying to like build my own groups, but then end up finding a DM who's like really keen to do something. So I'll be like, yeah, you do that. I'll jump in on that. Which is always that kind of
Absolutely.
contrast, as we say.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, it suits me fine. I think I prefer DMing, but maybe that's just because I've been DMing for over a decade now. So, I don't know. It's funny that you mentioned that you always seek out the most simple classes, and this is going off a bit of a tangent, but I've been playing Dragon Age Origins lately for the first time in ages, and so I was like, oh yeah, best try a more simple class just to get used to the system. So I went a dual-wielding warrior. Dual-wielding dwarf, commoner, warrior, and had a grand old time. All right.
I find that the same thing with like the renegade squatty in Mass Effect. It's just literally like you just power wielding all your abilities and just slamming everything in their face and just be like, yeah, cool.
Oh, nice.
Just have fun with it. It's more running gun, but still that RPG system.
Yeah, dude. I just started to play the first Mass Effect while you were driving home and getting ready and stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, how about we go into some barbarian backgrounds, as in like the settings that they would typically come from in your standard fantasy setting. So, like, where would you think that they would come from?
I think the first sort of background that I would look at for a barbarian would be either a criminal or not an urchin. What was the other one?
It's funny that you mentioned a criminal, because a criminal could be a great background for a barbarian that would be in a more like urban setting. Because I'm trying to piece together an urban setting in my like own time, and I've been trying to think of how each class would work in them, and it would be cool to see. Like I have a couple of examples as to what they could. Sorry to interrupt you as well. I feel
no. Like I think you hit the nail on the head. Like I was generally struggling. Like my first kind of thing when I was like, I think my last barbarian I made was I just went, okay, he's the setting in a city, so I think you need to talk to your DM first and establish where. I think that's the most important thing, because if you make this outlandish like hermit traveling barbarian that was a part of this 100-year-old clan and it's so outlandish, and then the GM has to either completely forget you back through your backstory for the first part of the game and then build back into it, or they have to build you in at a later point. And I think that's exactly either having a GM that's got the skills to keep the story flowing, so you're not kind of feeling like you're either railroading other people's stories, or that you're just literally going through their story with no consideration to what all the work and effort you put into your character creation, whether or not you've just done an auto generator, or if you've gone and spent 3 days writing an intense background.
That's a very cogent point. Like, or for anyone who does play in D&D, while you're creating your character, please always communicate with your dungeon master or game master or whatever you want to call them, because I like to help my players make characters that fit within my settings. And going off to what I was saying before, I was thinking about how the barbarian class could fit in a more urban setting, and they could be like, like bouncers, or, back alley gang thugs, or like bruiser assassins, or just like, if you wanted to go for a more, good alignment, you could go like you could go like a community leader that like stands up to the man, like beating off the tax collectors, or like muscling out guards that overstep their bounds and the like. So there's like a whole lot you can do with that criminal background. Well, no, the criminal background sparked that. Whereas like standard backgrounds would just be like you know the jungle or the high mountains and deserts and the like and stuff like that. Where I reckon like Outcast could come in handy there, or Outcast could actually come in handy in both kinds.
Yeah. Urchin's another good one because it could be
yeah.
like
I love that
whole aspect of literally. One idea I had for a barbarian was I've been watching a lot of movies and things like that, and it was always like this tale of two brothers that you would always be kind of like those urchins and orphans, and then kind of splitting off from one another. And this entire backstory that I'd written up, one of the brothers had gone one way, and this barbarian, other one becomes successful. Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, I keep getting notifications from other grouts in Discord, and it keeps like drowning you out. I don't know how to stop them.
Yeah, we might have to figure that out. Yeah, I was getting them through. Annoying. But then building on that, depending on how much we lost there, but essentially all I was trying to get across was having that urchin background, building the idea on it, and that you could build on that orphan idea and do whatever you want with it, really.
Yeah, I apologize for this, listeners or watchers. I'm trying to get it to stop. I can mute the server. There we go. Done.
As we said, this is the ghetto first
episode. It's the ghetto podcast. Ghetto podcast. I reckon some other good backgrounds for barbarians in more generic settings would be like outcast hermits could be good, I think. In terms of like roleplay, I'm not entirely certain of what the skills and stuff that they would give you would be. Because I gave them like the most basic cursory glance, and that was about it. But I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
As a player, I never look at the skills I get because I prefer to build everything around the skills and then kind of like use the skill setting and like deficiencies as reasons on why I'm not good at certain things, or
cool. I like that.
I want to look at it. So if instead of being like, oh, why would I put points into wisdom or whatever, and if I end up not doing it, then I'm just foolhardy and just end up running into things.
Yeah,
it's a good way to kind of give you a reason to lean into different feats and skills that you might kind of go in another way, like, but this is what I'm good at, and be like, well, you might also consider that you've got to, in some situations, be like, personally, I'm good at this stuff, and I'm actually really good at reasoning, but you've kind of reverse that on yourself and be good at being bad at it deliberately, and then watching how everyone interacts with it because you're already comfortable in that skin, so you can just elaborate and make other people either really comfortable or extremely uncomfortable by being this chauvinistic asshole barbarian who just sees things in a really simple black and white light that they kind of go, and then you can interact like. And if players have problems with that, then you need to either talk to your GM or the other players and make them aware that it is the character and not you that's actually driving this narrative.
It's funny. Like I said, from a Dungeon Master's perspective, I actually loved the game that I ran with you in it because
I'm looking forward to doing the road talk because I want to talk so much about that. That's going to be such a little... it's going to be so fun.
Dude, even I can't wait for the rogue talk because the only other character I've played outside of like my early days when I first got introduced to Dungeons and Dragons was a rogue, an assassin, Hadarai, the Sand Elf. He was awesome. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rogue as well because I actually have hands-on experience playing the class. Whereas with the barbarians, I can only go off what I've experienced. Having barbarians live in my worlds and wreak havoc and like destroy any semblance of planning that I have for anything. That's what I like about barbarians, though. The fact that they're just a wild card and I never know what to expect from them, but I love that because it keeps me on my toes.
Mm.
Because they might just do something completely off the cuff that I wasn't expecting at all, and I'm like, yes, that's awesome. I love that. Let's go with it. Because I always roll I prefer my players to sort of drive the direction of what my setting is. So, what my games are. While I have like a setting and I have activities happening within my setting, the way my players act or like what they choose to do will lead them into like situations, rather than me sort of just railroading them into them. And barbarians get up to some hella shenanigans. Let's just say that. It's great. So much fun. I love them so much. Even if they're brutal, like brutal to the point of making an insane, awesome, custom-made villain character that's supposed to be the mighty boss into a trivialized 2-turn fight.
Yeah.
But I love him. I love him so much.
I really want to make a high charisma barbarian one day. And I think we keep coming up with these outlandish ideas because we're just discussing about like a redundant rogue that talks its way out instead of stabbing
Yeah,
and being
just the
sneaky
fat
and all
shit
that
rogue.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I really want to find a barbarian that instead of having a strength stat, having like 15 charisma stat, and instead of it being I'm going to bash your face in, actually being the most freaking charismatic thing in the room and hates violence and all that kind of stuff.
It's funny you
but it
mentioned
has
that.
this inner demon blood bowl of violence bubbled up, and every so often it just comes in. He's a useless fighter.
Yeah, definitely, dude. It's funny you mentioned that because one of the barbarians in one of my groups is that, and it works really well.
Really?
It works really well with the berserker path because we'll talk about this down the road, as we get to talking about all the features and stuff that the class has to offer. But it really works well with the intimidation aspect, and he just goes around like like glaring at people, and then they just like cower in fear in front of him all the time. It's so good. So good. Just this angry little dwarf walking around
Hey,
like
what do you want?
yeah, just swearing at people and like yelling really loudly at people so they back down instead of getting into fights. Because like you know the way I like to run combat is I make it so combat is the last thing that you want to do, because I like to go off that gritty realism type of gameplay. So getting into combat will most likely mean your death. And so this guy has saved his party's ass so many times because he just has a shit talking bard like in the group who's always like insulting people and like getting nobles or like insulting nobles and stuff, and then like the nobles are like, "Oh, scoff! I'm going to send you into the dungeons." And then this little dwarf comes up. He's like, "No, you're fucking not!" They just back down immediately. It's awesome. It's really cool.
That's awesome that you've got that barbarian, not a dwarf, bard combo, because so many times you'll have a barbarian and a bard, and a barbarian walks in the room, and unless the DM allows them to use their strength stat as their intimidation stat, because someone will, being depending on the situation, so if you're using physicality and all that, they might kind of go use your strength stat as your modifier for intimidation.
I think it would depend on the circumstance.
It really depends, and you've got to have that conversation with your DM as well, because it is their world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you walk in as a 7-foot barbarian into a room and try to intimidate everyone, and you've got a dump stat with intelligence or wisdom, and you can't, I think it's intelligence, isn't it? And you can't intimidate for shit, but then a bard walks in the room and they've got this stupid modifier on them that allows them to freaking sweet talk anyone. It is just the most emasculating, or any form of thing. Like, I made this character that's supposed to be super intimidating, and this gnome can out fucking talk me in a room.
Yeah, bards. Well, bards are like renowned for being just skill masters. They're not really good in combat, but outside of combat, they can just do so much, because they can just boost like literally every single one of their skills if they build it right. Because I have one that at least has, I think it has like +5 in most of the skills or something like that. Something ridiculous like that.
You've got like your jack of all trades, and then anything that you're not skilled in, you get like a +3 or something like that.
Yeah, I haven't looked too much into the class yet. But we'll get to that someday, someday soonish, I would imagine. But yeah, bards, they're great as well. But we're talking about barbarians now, anyway.
Barbarians.
Anyway, all right. So how about we move on and start to talk about their features, I suppose. Well, no, we'll have a brief cursory look at their chart, their level chart, which I have up on the screen right now, so I can see it. I'm not sure if you can see it.
I've got it up here. I've got one up for the Path of Berserker.
Oh, excellent.
So that's,
all right. Well, as we can see, we have the barbarian chart here. They're pretty easy to make straight off the cuff for a beginner player. They have the highest hit point dice in the game, with the D12. I think the highest after that is Paladin and Fighters with D10 hit dice per level, or something like that. So having to roll a D12 is phenomenal. Like, obviously it can go bad for you as well. Like if you roll 1s or 2s if you're really unlucky. But if having the chance to roll a 12 on level up for your HP is phenomenal, especially if you get multiple as well, which is great. Straight up, they have proficiency in light armor, medium armor, and shields, which is great. But that's only considering if they want to wear armor at all.
Yeah.
Because
a barbarian, you don't actually have to wear armor.
Yeah.
As you get you actually have a skill that allows you to basically have like skin that is armor that gives you plus modifiers. So it's hit points plus.
Yep. Just run around naked with an axe. That's literally what Pig the Big does, which is one of the 2 barbarians in one of my groups. He's a big, dumb half-orc that doesn't wear any clothes and just walks around naked with an axe and rages and gets into shenanigans. He's a madman. I love that guy. What else?
You get 2 proficiencies on your first level, so you can choose basically between animal handling, athletics, intimidation, nature, and survival. That's particularly
and
with
perception,
the
I believe.
Here, but and perception is the other one there. Yeah,
I think
so
literally every class gets to choose from perception as well.
Yeah, I think perception is the other one because it is a major skill that gets called.
Those 2 skills as well gives you an idea of like how you can build the role-playing aspect of what you want to do with your barbarian, to boot. Most would probably... Well, actually, I'll query you. What would you choose for those skills?
The 2 that I actually chose, I chose Intimidation, mainly because it was something that I looked between athletics, intimidation, nature. It would have either been athletics and intimidation for my first one. Athletics mainly because the amount of running around, jumping, and things you need to as a barbarian.
Have athletics is bog standard for barbarians.
Yeah,
every single barbarian I've had in my groups has chosen athletics.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, because they're going to be leaping, jumping, climbing, swimming, what have you. They're pretty much the best class in the game for doing that kind of stuff.
My background also let me already choose athletics, so that's why I went for intimidation because I already had proficiency in it. So that was the other reason why I opted for intimidation as the secondary.
I really like the
It's
choice of
already
intimidation.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool choice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think I may have gone exactly the same thing. Well, after we go through like the straight up basics, we'll go into like the builds that we both made.
Yeah.
Basic, what we thought would be standard builds, and we'll go into that in a second. Last of all, with starting a barbarian, they start with proficiency in simple and martial weapons as well, I believe. Simple weapons being like clubs.
Simple
and,
weapons,
like,
martial weapons. They have no tools.
Yeah. And their saving throws are strength and constitution. As well.
Just to go over unarmored defense quickly. Just so
we'll get to that eventually.
Oh no, just because we did cover it, but yeah, we'll go back to that at another point.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
I have that covered. It's all good.
Beautiful. Thank you, my friend.
And then, yeah, if you guys, ooh, it was a mighty verb. It was. I'm such a child laughing at your flatulence. All right. As you can see as well, we have the chart, but we'll go into all the features later on. As you can see, their proficiency bonuses obviously start at 2, 3, 4, 5, then 6 eventually. Then we have the rages, which go up exponentially until you can rage an unlimited amount, which is ridiculous. Plus, rage gives you extra damage, which is also ridiculous.
And that also goes up with your level. So the extra damage you do goes up with every level every other level that you take. So it goes up with a modifier stack. So like at level ridiculous, you have your damage plus your modifier plus your rage damage, and when you've got infinite rage and you're basically doing all this extra damage, it is just like you can be doing as much as some of the glass cannons can do. What I mean by glass cannons is they basically hit hard, but if they get hit, they die.
Like sorcerers and wizards.
Yeah.
More sorcerers than wizards, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely glass cannon burst damage classes.
Yeah.
For sure. Honestly, barbarians, at least just standard player handbook classes, barbarians do the most consistent damage the most often. The most... my brain is not working right now. They do the highest damage consistently, is what I meant to say. Even compared to high-level burst damage specialists like crazy sorcerers and wizards and druids and warlocks, which can do insane amount of damage, but not as consistently, and they can only do it so much because of the spell slots available to them. Whereas barbarians can just be like, I'm going to rage and I'm going to swing my axe or my multiple axes or what have you and just cleave through every enemy in my path.
And if you build correctly, you can also have the amount of resistances and immunities and take half damage on frickin' everything if you've got the right build.
Yeah, most definitely one of the tankiest classes in the game. I think the only class that is tanky, and I might be wrong here because I haven't done enough research into it, is one of the fighter subclass, like not weapon master. I can't remember what it's called, but the one that has shield specializations and stuff like that.
I think another sort of missed class because they look at it and they just kind of go, I can't even pick my stats, is a cleric, and I think that's one that we'll get there eventually. It's going to take a lot of research in terms of making sure that we cover so much of it.
It's going to be crazy once we get up to the stuff like that, especially like in fighters in particular. There are so many ways you can build a fighter. And it's going to be insane just to try and like cover all the bases in that regard. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Actually, no, it is there, but it's not here.
It is.
But we'll get to that eventually. How about we go through what we both made? So like we both made a barbarian, like a low level barbarian, that a newcomer would probably make themselves. By our reckoning.
Yeah.
So do you want to start with yours first?
And so I made my barbarian Motley Cruz.
Oh my god.
And his is he's a half orc barbarian.
Classic.
Which is a I think berserker. Yeah, I chose the path of the berserker.
I can't see.
You.
It's cool that you went path of the berserker though.
Yeah,
I love
path
that.
of the berserker, which is just basically all about smashing
Yeah.
and just being using your rage as your horse to be reckoned with.
And we'll go
the
into depth about that kind of stuff later as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'm really happy that you went with half orc as well, because half orc is pretty much what every single barbarian ever is going to be.
Yeah.
Because they have this one racial ability that allows them to score criticals on 19 or something.
Yeah, and the other thing that they get is their ability to basically come back. So that I think like once, I can't remember exactly, but like, you got the player's handbook.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at it now. Oh, relentless endurance is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So when orcs are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, they can drop to 1 hit point instead, and they can't. Oh, okay. Well, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a healer in your group as well. That'd be fan.
So not only do you get to crit on 19, you also, if you're basically able to just keep that saving throw going, instead of dying, you're reduced to 1, and then you just get back up again and just keep smashing. And that could be the difference between killing this big bad that just took your big main hitter out, or just get that extra round where you're up again and you take that final bit of damage on them. That like just make that epic rule of cool moment that every player wants.
Yeah, totally. I was wrong about scoring crits on a 19. I think that has more to do with the weapon type,
I believe.
Okay.
I think that's a feat as well.
But what they do have, which is insane, is savage attacks. And when you score a crit with a melee weapon attack, you roll one of the weapon's damage dice an additional time and add it to the extra damage of the critical hit.
Yeah.
Which combined with the berserker is next level fucked up.
And I think we were talking about this before. The amount of fun you can have with a barbarian and be like, we just found this giant who's in the middle of the road, and no one's keen to freaking fight this. This is a challenge for me. I'm just gonna run into them and look at it in the comment. and that moment. As for me, for a player, the amount of times I've done that, and literally you can see the faces of every other person around the table, and you're like, we have to fight this now. Shit!
Absolutely.
Oh well, let's do this. And the amount of trouble you can get into with very little consequence, maybe a bit of a stern talking from your local cleric.
Oh, dude, especially this guy.
Paladin.
Let's go back to your dude as well. Racial bonuses you get. Your strength score increases by 2, and your constitution score increases by 1, which is pretty gnarly. It says here you have +5 to strength, but I don't see how that's possible as it stands.
So that would probably be the level 3 possibility, because that would have been. Let me just quickly level them down. Just double check if it changes it.
Level 4 is when you get the ability score. But that still wouldn't bring you 5. It doesn't matter too much. I'm just nitpicking because I'm DM. I'm like, there's a discrepancy there.
So my total score to start with a +3 modifier.
Mm-hmm.
That 15, and then I must have +2 to that somehow. This is all done through D&D Beyond, and that's how I mostly.
Oh well, don't worry about it too much. I just spotted that.
It's literally what I saw, and I went, yep, cool.
You let the computer do its work.
I let, and then if the DM's like, why? How do you have a plus?
Yeah,
how do you have?
That's why I don't really
5?
like. I usually get my players to actually make their own characters just by using the seed.
Yeah.
I don't mind for this. It's fine. in this scenario, it's fine. And honestly, use these sites as much as possible because it really does speed up the process quite a bit. But I'm just a bit of a stickler because especially when it comes to barbarians, if they become like overtly powerful, it becomes very difficult for a dungeon master to deal with a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So in order to keep things balanced, I just like my play. I like to go through with my players. Oh my god.
Also as a player, don't try and come to the table. And I've seen players do this, and they'll come to the table and be like, "I rolled natural 18 6 times in a row." And don't expect your DM to just be like, "Cool,
No.
You can run that character."
the way I bypass that issue is if they want to roll for stats, I usually pop on a Discord or something like that, or go onto Roll20 actually, and then we do it together. That way I can actually see what they're doing, rather than being like, "Yes, I rolled natural 20 for everything." Look at me. I personally haven't had any of those problems. I usually just go straight off the standard array. I'll get my players to go off the standard array, but I don't like to discount the rolling for stats either, because rolling, one of my players, and he's the wizard, rolled for his stats and didn't roll particularly well, but he's like one of the more fun characters in my games. I love that guy. He's like super uncharismatic. He rolled like a 6 or something, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll just put it as a charisma," and so he's just like a really timid nerd. And he has a stutter, and he role plays it really well. It's awesome. Cool. Anyway, let's talk about you, dude, and why you made some of these decisions.
See, I went through, and I'm just gonna have to go back to. I have to find the
it's all good.
page that I had up.
I have them all up. So you started with 13 armor class, I see.
Yep.
You have a +1 to initiative, 32 max HP at level 3. So you
at level 3.
You would have rolled phenomenally.
Yeah. It was on standard array, so it was 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8.
Oh, okay, cool. Plus the extra stuff that you would have got as well.
Would have been the racial.
Yeah.
It was the racial background that gave me the +2 to strength.
That's awesome.
Which is a nice one to take.
So
good. My strength +5, intelligence nothing, dexterity +1, wisdom +2, con +4, which is again to thank you to the proficiency in it.
Oh yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
Having a high wisdom is really good for barbarians as well. Oh, the sun is rising. There we go. It's quite early in the morning here. If we didn't mention before, we live on literally opposite sides of the world from one another. Cause...
This is not how we started out. We didn't just be like, "Hey, we should do a podcast together over the internet." That'd be kind of weird.
We're both from Australia, and Chris moved to England. So yeah. Anyway, that's not. I see that you actually have a pretty good array of skills available as well.
Yeah.
You have +4 in survival, which is excellent for a barbarian to have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I like my barbarians to be good at surviving. I also like my barbarians to be not good at surviving as well. But that's just my whim as a DM. It's a shame your intimidation suffered a little bit from that minus charisma. Yeah. But at least because you took the proficiency in it, you do get that extra +1.
Which was a nice way to balance it out, so I'm not completely taking a negative in that sense.
And you always need a dump stat anyway. I'm just surprised you dump stat you dump stat charisma over intelligence. I haven't seen that happen
Oh,
before. That's actually quite unusual.
as a barbarian, the reason I took a low
Role-playing.
intelligence is role playing. Literally, and if I were to pre-roll this, that's not necessarily how I would take it. 'Cause sometimes I will do a straight roll and do your 4d6 or however you want to do it. And I'll take the order that it gives me.
I'm happy you did that as well. It means you just bypassed what a lot of people do, which is min-max. So you were like, oh no, fire to min-max. I want to make my character instead. I love that kind of stuff as a DM. I love to see that.
I as a player coming to a table and someone's like, well, I've got this skill and this skill and this is gonna make this, and then you sit back and they take a half an hour turn.
Yeah.
Literally, if you're a player and you're taking half an hour because you've got every stat boost and every reason, and you can see every player rolling their eyes in the DM and you're not aware of it, please, please, please just take the stick out of your ass and just realize that it's just a game and have fun with it.
Or
like,
if
everyone has fun in their own ways.
On the other side of that, as a DM, don't put up with stuff like that. I don't. I mean, it's fine. I don't mind people min-maxing at all. Don't get me wrong, because people find enjoyment in that. It's fine. But if it's at the expense of everything else, within the game and especially within the group, it's just a big no-no. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be fun for everybody, not just yourself. I personally haven't had an experience like that, but you have told me about that specific experience during your time Adventurers League. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Back at Games Capital, which sounded like an utter nightmare, dude. Shout out to Games Capital. Free advertising.
Let's plug Games Capital, where you can go upstairs and spell BO for 3.5 hours straight.
It's a bit unfortunate. They really should be more stringent about that. I was actually chatting to one of the fellas there that works there about that, and he was like, "Yeah, when I'm on shift, I don't like if someone walks through the door, because where the booth is, it's like right next to the door. So he's like, yeah, if someone walks through the door and they reek, I tell them to leave." I'm like, the world needs more people like you. Honestly, dudes.
Dudes, dudettes,
please,
whoever.
Please. And dudettes, yes, but dudettes generally take a bit more care of their personal hygiene. Take care of your fucking personal hygiene, please. Put on deodorant. Please. Shower, guys. For fuck's sake. But I hate going to Magic tournaments because it's just a nightmare. It's like an odorous nightmare. It's awful, dude. Oh, anyway.
Magic draws at midnight. When you've had a bunch of dudes queuing for 6.5 hours, and you walk in the store, and there is this smell, and I'm sorry that this is the nerd community that we're addressing in terms of this. Just shower, go home, chill there, get ready. You're not going to miss anything. If you're that type of person, either carry around a remote shower or like a 10-liter deodorant with you and be aware of it.
Please.
Please. That is from every role-playing, Magic the Gathering, loving nerd that also loves exactly the same thing as you, but they can't enjoy it. But they literally cannot breathe.
Because there's always people like that as well. Alright, I'm gonna go into my... Oh, I forgot to send you this. My dude. Oh, I'm sorry, man. You can watch the video and see it. I'm so sorry. I'd do it real quick, but that would just be like super. You know what? Fuck it. It's already super ghetto. I actually don't know how to send this to you. That's the only thing.
Can I quickly just go over the perks of the Path of Berserker before we go any further, or do you want me to?
Oh yeah. By all means, you do this while I try and sort out sending you my guy.
You sort yourself out. So the benefits of you do have in that. I think we started going into it. You do have your hit points, your proficiency, which you got to choose those sources, and then first level of rage, you get in battle fight private ferocity. On your turn, you enter a range is as a bonus action. On your turn, you can action a bonus action, and when you're raging, the following benefits aren't to wear anymore. And we'll go into and basically it's just you get your as long as once you enter a rage, you've got until the end of the turn to actually hit something or something hit you. Otherwise, your rage ends, and then as it stacks and you get more rage, it'll change that.
And we'll go. We should probably speed this up a little bit because we have so much to cover.
Yeah. We do.
I can't send it to you right now without like completely destroying this recording. Right. I'm really sorry, but I'll quickly go through mine. Fine. It's just a standard level 1 barbarian. Yeah. His name is Sigyn Silvermantle. He's a mountain dwarf. I chose the gladiator background, and his alignment is just chaotic. Not chaotic good, not chaotic evil, not chaotic lawful, just chaotic. And that's it. He has 17 strength because he also gets +2 to his strength from racials. He has 13 dex, 16 constitution because he also gets a bonus in that as well. I did the opposite of you and did the min-max thing. I dumped it intelligence. Then had 10 in charisma and 12 in wisdom. That leaves him with +3 in strength, +1 dexterity, +3 constitution, -1 intelligence, +1 wisdom, 0 in charisma. And then I chose athletics and performance for my 2 proficiencies. I chose performance was because of my background. I chose survival as my other class proficiency. My athletics is +5, which is amazing. It's so good. And then +3 survival, +3 acrobatics. Surprisingly, I think I chose that as my background. What were your background ones as well? Did you choose background?
Did I actually choose a background?
Oh, here we go. Yeah, you do because you have 4 of them. You have investigation as one. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
you're an inquisitive barbarian.
Yeah.
What? It's like, but you would only use that like you pick up a fork. You're like, what is this? What do you do with it?
My background was actually Mark of the Finding, which I found that's why I took it. Literally, that was literally it's basically the one of the new ones that came out where you're like this more grey half, or you're like a misnomer in society. So I just went as a laugh. As you can tell, Motley Crue's name of the character. So I went, let's go investigation, because Mark of the Finding, so he's an investigating half-orc barbarian who.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I like that. I think that's cool. Yeah, the gladiator background is really interesting as well because it stems from the. Well, I forgot what the original one is. The performer, I think it's called, which is what you would usually take for a bard, but instead of like singing at a tavern to earn your supper in a room for the night, you go out and look for like pit fights and gladiatorial arenas, and then you just fight people for entertainment and get money for it or something like that. It's really cool. And it also allows you to get like a nifty gimmicky gladiator weapon. So I chose a net, which is a ridiculous weapon. I can't even explain how it works properly, but I have one. Yeah. Basically, it's a ranged weapon that's always thrown with disadvantage, but traps people if you can manage to make it land. It's just really fun. I thought it was cool.
The other character that was a barbarian that I made test, but I couldn't get a character sheet up, was a barbarian turtle.
And
the weapon I chose to him was a trident and a sickle and a javelin. Mainly because
that's awesome.
I'm just like imagining a turtle with a trident and just like, but the most slow, just chill freaking barbarian in the world, and watching people just go, I'm a turtle.
And then it rages, and then everything changes. And then it's like swift as an arrow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing idea.
Yeah.
It's a shame you couldn't find all
See,
that.
I couldn't get it on D&D Beyond without, like, I think you have to buy the external books that would have given you that. So, like, it is a good resource, but you are investing in it in the future if you want.
That's all right.
And
Eventually,
GM can campaign.
That's
But I was just gonna say, as a player, don't be afraid to, like, as long as it fits in the setting of the world, don't try and make like a futuristic character from the future when it's set in like a magical things. Like, you might be able to make it work.
You could do it to an extent. You could do it to an extent, but like you wouldn't want to be like, I am Cyborg Johnson from year 20XXDX. You know what I mean? But like you could totally roleplay like a wizard that's from the future, like 200 years in the future, where some sort of like demonic calamity happened and like demons have streamed into the world and destroyed it, and this guy had to come back or something to like prevent that from happening. Where, you know, that would be something I would do, you know, for a background.
Yeah.
And I would love something like that as a DM, as long as you communicate.
Put this character together and you really love this idea, but your GM is just not either experienced enough or they're still learning, so they're not quite comfortable having such a big, ambitious kind of character that would involve their story arc and change what plans they already have, and they're not flexible enough because of it. Don't just be like disheartened, be like, I can't play this character. You can always sideline it. You don't have to roll all the stats.
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially if you're in communication with your DM, because like if you let that be known with your DM, you can then, you know, sit down and work on how you could incorporate such a wild story into the setting itself, which is something I would do for sure. But like a lot of the time, or for what I do is I have sort of arcs that happen, like world states that I want my players to get through, and then if they manage to get through those eventually, I would probably like build on top of that while they're getting through them. So if someone went in with that sort of like demonic calamity that this mage wants to prevent or whatever, I would then, you know, work on that happening within my world. But it requires a lot of communication, just like anything in life. Really, communication is key. I think we've talked about our own, or rambled, let's say, about our own dudes. There's not much to say about them. They're pretty standard stuff. Like, is yours unarmored? Mine's unarmored.
I think mine's unarmored. I don't think I went for armor.
Yeah,
but it gives players, you players, if you're kind of going, I don't know what to start. You can just go in, make something fun, run, like just be like, okay, I've got to choose a race, a class. It gives you an idea of what you can go with, and I think we're showing the variation that if you let your imagination run wild enough, you can basically do anything you want within reason. Communicate with the GM, and we'll try not to harp too much on about that in the future. But it is just such a key point. It is a social interaction, and you just need to be take those steps. But it is literally what background did you go? Which path did you take? For your which class?
Well, I didn't get mine to. I only made a level 1. But I probably would have gone with Berserker, to be completely honest, because I prefer Berserkers. I'll talk about Berserkers very shortly. In fact, why not start talking about the features of the Barbarian?
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah, we can.
What do you reckon? Yeah. Aye. All right. So.
Mate.
So straight off the bat, at level 1, Barbarians start with rage. Made famous by Grog the Barbarian from Critical Role. Yeah, it's an amazing ability. You use it as a bonus action. It lasts 1 minute. By my reckoning, 1 minute is about 6 rounds of combat. Each round of combat being about 6 seconds each. It gives you advantage on strength checks and saving throws. Melee weapon attacks using strength gain a bonus to damage rolls per the class table, as you saw before. I'll probably put a link of the class table down in the whatchamacallit. And it gives you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, which is half damage rounded down from most attacks outside of like magic and the like. Which is crazy because they basically make all critters or like sort of mobs, like mob encounters, entirely trivial for them, because all my kobolds and goblins and hobgoblins or what have you will try to swarm these barbarians, and they're like, nope, fuck these guys, I'm an angry man and I'm gonna kill them all, and all my attacks are doing nothing to them most of the time. Or if they do something to them, they're doing very little. Awesome ability. What do you think?
Yeah, I love. I love.
Everybody loves raging.
Ridiculous.
Everybody loves raging, man. Like, stub your toe, I go into a rage.
Everyone loves raging.
The rage song, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Stub your toe, go into a rage. Someone insults you, go into a rage. Order an ale, they give you wine, go into a rage. It has endless applications. Raging. I've had players.
More food, go into a
I've
rage.
had players wake up in the morning, go into a rage, wreck the campsite. Like it's just fun. It's not only fantastic for combat purposes, but it's also really great for role playing purposes as well.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's so awesome.
It is awesome.
Shall we move on?
I'll move on to unarmed. So when you're not wearing, as a barbarian, when you're not wearing any armor, so if you do decide to be like naked in a loincloth or just nothing at all, your armor class equals to +10 your dexterity modifier, so plus your constitution modifier. So you basically, your armor is your con plus your dex plus your armor class, which is usually +10. So if you've got the right stats and you've got them built the right way, if you're min-maxing or whatever you end up having on good dex and constitution, that's where your armor is going to be made up until you either change to armor.
It's phenomenal.
It's great.
It also has
everyone else is unencumbered.
Yeah, exactly. It also has the bonus of allowing you to use a shield as well, which adds on top of that. I haven't seen it happen, but I wouldn't mind seeing a shield using barbarian. There's absolutely no reason why you couldn't use a shield, like an axe shield or a mason shield with a barbarian.
Axe shield. Yeah.
Just because you're a barbarian doesn't always mean you need to wield a great weapon all the time. That's just like what the go-to.
You can always take a versatile weapon as well. Go for either a 2-hand or 1-hand. So if you do choose that you want to move up to that larger dice and you want the D12 to be rolling with, especially if you think you're going to a bigger fight and you're going to get hit most turns anyway, you might as well just switch to more damage and less protection. But it really depends the situation you're in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also depends on how your GM rolls. How, like, if they're trying to attack you from behind, they might give you the advantage or disadvantage depending on how it is. But it is up to the DM's discretion on that fact.
Indeed. All right. After that, we have at second level reckless attack, which for your first, I'm attacking you recklessly. For your first action in combat, you may choose to attack with reckless abandon, and if you have advantage on strength attack rolls, technically only strength weapon rolls, I suppose, during your turn. I rule that as any strength attack roll, so like if you're in a fist fight, it'll work for that as well. But your attack rolls against you have advantage until the next turn. But it's really fucking good if you use it right. Reckless attack is a great ability.
Do not forget about it. Don't forget about it. It is always an option there. Just keep in mind every attack that is used, like you use them, you basically you're giving them advantage on you on their next attack on you because you've attacked recklessly. So you're putting yourself in that position.
I think
so. Just It's a double-edged sword, but it is good to have.
Yeah, it absolutely is a double-edged sword, especially at lower levels. You get it at second level, and no one is going to be, a huge, mighty, damage sponge at that point. So you have to be. You would probably only use it at lower level as a last resort. But in saying that, getting an advantage on that first attack, basically, it almost ensures that you're going to land it, really.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah,
ups
it
the
really
chances of you hitting, which is awesome. Straight off the
also,
bat.
like, consider it in using it situationally. So if you're in an area where you're naturally going to have disadvantage, well, using reckless attack, yes, they get advantage on you depending on the situation. So if they're all getting disadvantage anyway, you would go from having disadvantage to a straight roll. Because you would have advantage and disadvantage, so it just goes to rather than an advantage roll. So there's situational as well, rather than just also a last resort. So think about it that way.
Yeah, it's so useful, especially down the line, and we'll go into like combos and stuff as we talk about other things. At second level as well, we get Danger Sense, which is pretty cool, and that gives the barbarian advantage on dex saving throws against effects that the barbarian can see, such as traps and spells. And additionally, the barbarian may not be blinded, deafened, or incapacitated, which is awesome. That second one alone, I think, is probably better than the first part. Not being able to be blinded, deafened, and incapacitated is insane. It makes it so difficult to, for me as a DM, to like deal with barbarians at any given time as soon as they second, because if I can't, like
I think I got. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, all I was gonna say is because I like to get creative during encounters and stuff. So like, I'll have the dirty little goblin and he picks up a bit of dirt and he chucks it in your face and stuff. I do stuff like that all the time, but I can't do that to barbarians. It really annoys me.
Yeah.
I can't use like flash bombs and stuff. It sucks.
We had a one-on-one session once, and you threw this monster at me that used blinding abilities, trying to deaf me, trying to incapacitate me, and you're like, and I'm like, no, danger sense. And you're like, God damn it!
Yeah,
this is not going to do anything to you.
I think it was like the Yol Goal or something.
Yeah,
it was like a weird goopy demon.
Yeah, and you're just like, what effects actually work on him? Like, none, just a barbarian who likes to hit things.
I was like no. But yeah, it's great. It makes. Basically, its Danger Sense serves to make barbarians even more effective in combat, which is exactly what you want as a barbarian.
Yeah.
Next level up, we go into the Primal Path deviations at third level. Let's start with Path of the Berserker. Now, I have a very messy screen here because I'll go like Berserkers are generally considered to be the worst primal path for barbarians. Because when you stack it up, on face value, when you stack it up against Totem Warriors, which is what we'll be covering, I'm not going to bother going into like things like the... Oh, I can't even remember what they are in the supplementation.
Quickly cover the three of them. So you've got your first path, which is your Berserker path, which is the most basic. Then you've got your Totem Warrior, which allows you to manifest a animal as a totem, so either a bear.
Yeah, we'll start with Berserker first, though. Shall we?
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry.
All I was going to say is that you should never discount Berserkers, because I did the math on it, and Berserkers, out of all the classes, and I may have mentioned this vaguely before, but Berserkers in particular do the most damage on basically a constant basis because of their ability Frenzy, which allows the barbarian to choose to go into a frenzy when they're raging, and they can make another melee attack as a bonus action on each of their turn while raging, which is insane. especially if you're a half-orc, because that means you get what was it called again? That class feature, the race feature, savage attacks, which gives you another bonus attacks. So that's 3 fucking attacks, and then you stack that with relentless endurance to make your first attack super duper accurate. So you're at least guaranteed to make one of those attacks, and then you can go even crazier on that. You can dual wield it.
And then when you
if you're dual wielding, you get 4 attacks plus more if you're a barbarian.
More at higher levels. And,
it's insane. It's the pure damage potential is ridiculous, and as a result, it has a nerf that makes you exhausted after you use frenzy, and that turns a lot of people off it, which I think is silly. Because it's such a powerful ability that has the potential to just carve up a dragon in one turn.
Yeah.
So of course
really
it's going to have a nerf to it, because otherwise you could just solo campaigns. Every other party member wouldn't mean anything if you could just frenzy all the time without any consequences.
Think about if you do have frenzies, GMs, just be aware of status effects. Don't forget to if someone says they're going to go frenzied, make sure the players also have those consequences, because sometimes it can be just forgotten in the heat of the battle. Someone can go frenzied and then they forget because a lot's gone on. End of session, and you might not end with a long rest, and then they go, "We're getting into another fight." Well, if they're exhausted, they're not going. Everything's going to be at disadvantage.
You definitely have to be careful about when you use it, and then once you've used it, be aware of your exhaustion table. If you're not doing that, every single DM is going to capitalize on it as well. I do. I would as well. I think a good. I have a house rule that I have with one of my parties, because the barbarian chose Berserker, but he was complaining about it, and I was like, look, I'll give you a bit of leeway, right? So instead of just giving them the exhaustion straight after using frenzy, I've got it wrong here. I'll make them roll a constitution check. Reason being is going into a frenzy is going to be physically exerting. You're going to be very tired. So doing a constitution check gives you a chance to not get that exhaustion. But, it's sort of like a risk versus reward situation, I think. So,
and I just mean general from a player's perspective, if you just either be honest about it and be like, look, I've just realized I should have been exhausted at this point. And I think that's what I was getting at. Just don't. It's easy to forget that. That's a lot.
I mean, if the DM is doing their job, they would be keeping track of that anyway.
Yeah,
I would. I was like, the barbarian's exhausted now. Good. Good.
Oh, the barbarian's gone into another raid. Even better.
Oh, he's frenzying again. Ooh, I don't think he knows he already has 3 levels of exhaustion. Mind you, you would be very aware. Once you get to, because I have the exhaustion table here. 1 level of exhaustion is disadvantage on ability checks, which is a bit stupid. So I just go disadvantage on physical ones, rather than everything. Exhaustion 2.
Discretion.
Yeah, exactly. Exhaustion 2 is speed halved, which I keep. Exhaustion 3 is disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws, which I think by that point is fair enough. Exhaustion 4 is HP maximum is halved, which kind of makes sense if you're frenzying that much. You just got to be.
If you frenzy that much, you got
to be cut up and messed up. 5, your speed reduces to 0, so you collapse, and then 6 is death. But obviously, you wouldn't really be able to frenzy too much after that point, anyway. I love frenzy. I think it's great.
Challenge accepted. No.
Yeah, I love it. In the words of Pig the Big, the naked half-orc barbarian, Zerking is love, Zerking is life.
Oh, God.
we'll go into Path of the Totem Warrior one. I'll let you take the reins on this one.
I don't have it up. Here. So.
Jeez, man, be more organized.
Gee, guys.
This is me like bringing shit up on the screen. If you don't have it, I have it right here.
Got it here.
All right.
So, at third level, when you adopt the Path of the Totem Warrior, you choose your Totem Spirit to gain the feature. You may acquire a totem or object, or it might be a physical totem that you receive in the game, or you might also just end up also. But when you receive your totem, you incorporate fur, feathers, claw, teeth, or bones of the totem animal of your option to gain minor physical accolades to actually look like that animal, or you might just remain
flavor
looking like
text.
a human.
Just flavor.
Yeah.
You gain some flavor text.
Yeah.
That's the more trivial stuff. But it's cool.
That's cool. The totem animal might be an animal related to the listing here, so you choose between a bear when rage resistance to all damage except physical psychic damage, and the spirit bear makes you tough enough to stand up to any punishment. So basically you have resistance against all types of damage apart from psychic,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Great tanking spec, I reckon.
Yeah.
This is why most people would choose Totem Spirit over Berserker, just because of the versatility of it, I reckon. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Eagle?
No, it's fine. Eagle is when you're raging, you want any heavy armor. Creatures have disadvantages on opportunities, attack rolls against you, and can use the dash action as a bonus action on your turn. The Spirit Eagle makes you into a predator and can weave through the fray with ease.
Well, indeed. It's alright. I don't think it's quite as good as
Wolf,
Bear.
Where you're raging, your friends have advantage on melee rolls against any creature within 5 feet of you. The Spirit of the Wolf makes you a leader of the hunters. So basically, it's a really good one if you're a party team member and you want to basically boost everyone up. That's one to kind of go for. I'll kind of leave it those because the next one, the others are kind of extended.
That's
they're
alright. I have them up here as well, which is really cool.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello. Hey. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Technical difficulties.
Hello?
Hey, man.
Hey.
You can hear me?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
dude.
hear you. I think I'm gonna pump.
Alright.
That's fine.
Alright.
I muted myself.
Oh. Nice. Alrighty.
Nice.
Yeah. Out of those three, I reckon the Eagle's probably the weakest. It's not bad by any means. Actually, it would be really good if you're going to, like, sort of Zerk, but Totem Warrior style, because it makes... in a way, it sort of makes you as tanky as Bear style, in that it makes you harder to hit. But I think the Bear style just gets the bonus... because of all of that damage resistance. Does that basically mean, because you already have damage resistance to like bludgeoning and slashing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Does that make it negligent? Would that eliminate
So
it? I
the
feel like
the other one
that would be
No,
ridiculous.
it doesn't double stack, and there's been a lot of conversations about this.
Okay.
And I've seen a lot of people kind of go, "Do you get 3/4 cover or 3/4?" So you only
I imagine
take
it would...
like 2 points of damage.
Okay.
It is literally one or the other. It doesn't double stack on that.
Okay, yeah, good. There, that's what I would have thought. So it basically just covers all your other bases there when it comes to magic. It just makes you a giant magic sponge as well, which is fucking
DMs
awesome.
don't let experienced players try and tell you otherwise. If
Yeah,
you don't
if you
want
knew
someone
it.
to have 3/4 and they're trying to force this down your throat and be like, "Oh, I get this, that because I've got Totem of the Bear." No, it's your game.
You know what I do when people try to convince me to do shit like that?
Yeah.
I punish them. I am the DM. I have the power. Yeah. Anyway, I think they also get beast sense and speak with animals that they can cast as rituals, which is pretty cool. Beast Sense, you touch a willing beast, duration of the spell, you can use the action to see through the beast's eyes, smell what the beast smells, hear what the beast hears, and continue to do so until you choose an action to return to your normal senses, which could have some interesting applications. And then speak with animals, you just speak with animals, and they can give you information, however they're limited as to what they can tell you due to a lack of intelligence for being animals, and from what they've experienced within the last day or so. But it's pretty cool if you want to find out like stuff in the wilderness. Say you're like lost in a desert, you stumble upon a camel, and you're like, "Camel, tell me where some water is." And the camel will be like, "Yeah, there was a wet place, like a couple of clicks that way." It has some cool applications. It can definitely be a lifesaver in survival situations, which I throw at my players quite a bit because I love me some survival. So that's the third level primal path deviations, and now we have level 4, which is either an ability score or you can choose a feat if your dungeon master allows you to. I often allow you to, within reason. So what
we'll?
we might as well go through this. We'll choose like one feat for each of these, and like what we think would be the ideal ability scores, which is pretty obvious.
For a barbarian, the first one I always take is tough. I'm just gonna say it straight out. Like it doubles your the tough feat lets you
toughness. I should get
toughness.
The feats up. I think that's what it's called. Radio silence. Woo!
Radio silence. I don't want to.
Oh no, terrible! We broke the cardinal rule.
Yeah.
I think I know the one that you're talking about. Resilience.
Hit points maximum increased by an amount equal to its feat. Whichever you gain thereafter, hit point maximum increased by an additional. So for every level you do, it's called tough.
Oh, tough. Okay.
So, so it increases equivalent to twice your level, as well as increasing an additional 2 hit points to every time you. So
yeah, that's
you're
pretty
getting
great.
Your Constitution modifier plus that, plus the additional 2 hit points for the level you take. This from there on, if you're taking level 3, by the time you get to level 20, you're going to be looking at about 300-400 hit points easily, and you're going to be in the triple digits, where everyone else might, like a rogue, might be breaking 100 at level 17.
Yeah,
it is
awesome.
It is a
damage
good
sponge. Yeah, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
I would take Great Weapon Master. So
that's the next one.
Oh, dude. So on your turn, when you score a crit with a melee weapon, or reduce a creature to 0, which is pretty easy as a barbarian. So more on the second point than the first point, because that's going to happen more often. You can make an additional melee weapon attack as a bonus action, which is a berserker.
Which
is amazing.
Which is the berserker. I think we ended up saying we're about 5, so the additional weapon master will give you 6 attacks at level 3 or 6 or whatever.
The thing about it, by my reckoning as well, bonus actions are just that. They're bonus actions. So you can stack bonus actions. So if one thing says you can do something as a bonus action, and then another thing says that you can use them as a bonus action, you can use both of them, which is insane. Unless your dungeon master is just a sook and doesn't want you guys to have fun. But
some GMs may literally be like, "You've got a."
I would allow this to happen. Movement. So I don't see what because it's also rule of cool, right? And then another point it has is before you make a melee attack with a heavy weapon that you are proficient with, you can choose to take a -5 penalty to attack roll, and if the attack hits, you add +10 to the attack's damage. That kind of has a diminishing return the higher level you go. But at early days, if you are in a pretty dire circumstance and you're willing to, take the risk, that could be a game changer. You know what I mean? Especially considering Berserker plus bonus action means that you can have multiple occasions, you could stack that. So if you were to use that ability with reckless attack, it would make it far more accurate as well.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Mm.
Those are our first two feats. Ability score improvements would be pretty straightforward. You would basically try to seek out maximizing your strength and constitution.
Pretty much.
Yeah, maybe dexterity.
Unless you're a Dex barbarian, which they do exist.
Yep.
There's a certain build that you might want to look at, and you instead of putting all your points of strength, you put in the Dex.
Yep.
That would be the other way to go.
I mean,
for the fifth
there's
level-
always room for improvement. In terms of like role playing as well. Like if you were playing like you mentioned the charisma barbarian, although that guy that plays the charisma barbarian in my group, he improved his charisma so he could use his intimidation checks more often and stuff like that.
So it's seeking out the opportunities you want to play a player. If your GM's a ball, you do that, then purely on him, but you still gotta
Yeah, but just a rule of thumb would just be to increase the two stats that your class relies upon the most. And considering they're going to be the closest to 20, because things are usually capped at 20 unless you use items. And I think the soft cap is 20, and then the hard cap is 24, I believe.
Hard cap's 24.
And it's very difficult to get to 24. But
at these lower levels,
at the
higher ones.
Yeah, like you need enchanted items and stuff like that.
I'll quickly go over the 5th level ones. You have the extra attack, which was pretty self-explanatory. You get an extra attack on your turn.
Yeah.
And as we said before, with our barbarians that we have here, they're both unarmed or unarmored. So on the other thing you get is on fast movement. So on the 5th level, you start to increase your movement by 10 feet when you aren't wearing heavy armor. So that bonus of not only are you fast, you're strong, you get to hit things a lot, you get to move an extra 10 feet, and if you're already like a half or a Goliath or something like that, and your movement's like 50 or 60, you're moving 70 feet a turn.
The half-orcs and giants movement would be 30 feet.
Yeah.
The fastest
Goliath,
movement you can get
50.
straight off the bat. No, it's not.
It's not?
No.
No?
No. That's too quick. That's ridiculous. I'm pretty sure the standard... I don't know, I might be wrong, but I don't have the supplement that has half giants and stuff in it. I don't know. I'm confused. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll go into stuff like that later. If you do start at 50 feet movement straight off the bat, that is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. It is 30. Sorry.
I thought so, because the fastest character out of the gates is going to be a wild elf at 35.
Yeah,
I believe. Outside of extra things, and there are a lot of extra races. Anyway, like you said, awesome, raging barbarian, whacking people, stabbing, hacking, slashing, running around. It's pretty simple, but amazingly effective. It's so cool, man. I love it. So 6th level, we go into primal path deviations again. We'll start with the path of berserker. How about I do berserker, you do totems?
Yeah, let's see if I can go.
Alright, so path of berserker gets mindless rage. The barbarian can't be charmed or frightened, which just adds to its ridiculousness. So now it can't be blinded, incapacitated, deafened. Now it can't be charmed, and it can't be frightened, which is it's very stressful as a dungeon master. It makes him very difficult to deal with. If the barbarian is charmed or frightened before raging, the effect is suspended for the duration of the rage, which means that through your rage, if you can manage to eliminate the thing that is charming you or frightening you, you can eliminate it. And considering you are now very quick and have many, many attacks, it is... I tried to make this really powerful vampire lord in one of my campaigns, and he was very good at charming and frightening people, but no, not the barbarian. Everybody else, I incapacitated relatively well. You know, manipulating them into thinking that they were getting all that they were desiring. And then the barbarian was like, fuck this guy. And then he cut him to pieces. In like one turn. 1 or 2 turns? I don't remember. He got a crit. I remember that. That sucked.
The reversal of player love. It's like, I've made this amazing character.
Oh, dude, I put so much
and
effort into the guy. He was suave as fuck. He was like this handsome, like, centuries-old vampire lord. You know, he'd been lording over this town for ages. He had a good thing going. And I was expecting him to have, like, this hectic arc. Like, where he was going to, like, introduce himself, fight them for a little bit, then escape. But no, I never got the chance. Because the barbarian just came along and fucking cut him in half. I was like, no! No, I have to think of other things to do.
Players, if your GM hasn't introduced a big bad pile, but there's been a stew of like deaths and murders from your barbarian, and you wonder why there isn't this awesome overarching story going on, look at your barbarian and ask you why.
Oh man, I mean, you could fit that kind of stuff in and still have an awesome overarching stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're if you don't plan for things like that, which I do after over a decade's worth of experience playing D&D, and it takes that much. It can be. They can really be showstoppers if you're not prepared for it. But like, even though that guy was cleaved in half, it was all right because he was just one guy. I had many other villains for them to contend with. But yeah,
well, don't vampires just like go to an ethereal form after that, and then like go back to the coffin before they die, or is that just something that?
It depends. Like what? Like, I don't really go too much into that kind of thing, because it kind of just bogs down in like silly lore. I kind of just like I said, I like my players to drive. Oh, I got the hiccups. My apologies. To drive the narrative. So like, if they come up with something like that, I'm like, yeah, that happens then. Like, cool. Anyway, let's move on to the Totem Warrior.
Of the Totem Warrior, so aspect of the beast is what you get on your second choice. At the 6th level, you gain the magical belief based on the totem animal of your choice. You can choose the same animal as you selected the third animal, or a different one. It is your choice. So the bear, following on from the last one, you gain the might of a bear. Carrying capacity, including maximum load and maximum lift, is doubled, and you have advantage on strength tests that made you push, pull, lift, and break objects. So not only you are massive, like, buff can't hit you, you also now are just a giant siege weapon, which is amazing. So literally you can siege castles and shit like that, which is
you become a pack mule.
A pack mule and just a moving mortar, which is awesome. You gain the eyesight of an eagle, and you get to see it 1 mile away, which so many people have seen. Legolas, what does your elf eyes see?
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's pretty cool.
Find details as looking through something more than 100 feet away, so you just got 20/20 or 80/80 vision. That is absolutely amazing.
It's great for definitely more than 20/20. 1,000.
So when your stupid min-max build friend has this, and then you just have this ability that lets you see like tiny inconceivable items, and your perception is off the charts, you get to be the awesome barbarian that you are. The wolf, you gain hunting sensibilities of a wolf. You can track other creatures while traveling at a fast pace, and you can move stealthily while traveling at normal pace. So basically, you
wolf
hunter's mark, basically.
Wolf is awesome.
Wolf is awesome. I like bear too.
I like bear too. My Totem Warrior took bear. I believe my Totem Warrior took bear on both of them. My Totem Warrior being a player in my group, took bear. But my favorite of the three in this particular stack is wolf, just for role playing purposes. And I like the idea of like a sneaky Conan style barbarian as well. You know what I mean? Because like, I love Conan the Barbarian. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you, Chris. But like, there's so many scenarios where Conan Like Conan is smart for a barbarian. He doesn't just charge into combat all the time. He's a badass when he is in combat, but like there's moments where he's sneaking about with other people and stuff like that. And I love the idea of doing that. I think it's really cool. Tracking creatures at a fast pace is also amazing. In situations that I can think of in my own campaign, even, which is cool. Eagle is bar none. It's the least useful of the three.
Again, it's literally. I think the first one, bear, is the top. This one, tiger's kind of taken that thing, and then it's either tiger. Oh, sorry, not tiger. Tiger's one of the extended ones. Wolf, and then eagle, or bear, wolf, eagle, or wolf, bear, eagle. Tiger and elk. You get an extended.
We won't go into tiger yet.
No,
we'll make like smaller videos for the extra stuff, yeah. I reckon. But yeah, bear, awesome as well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, double carrying capacity is really good, especially I usually have carrying capacity involved in my campaigns, just because I like realism in my campaigns. Like, I don't think it's. Oh, I think it's silly when someone's like, I'm going to jump out a window from the top of the castle. It's like, you would break your legs if you did that, dude.
Yeah.
But you can certainly still do that. As long as it's stylized, I'm usually okay with it. But being able to carry extra stuff is always going to be handy. Especially if they want to carry extra weapons, because then they can have 2 weapons sets, and I allow that kind of stuff. And those advantage on strength checks to pull, push, and lift things has so much potential to just be awesome. Like lifting up a boulder and just throwing it at people. That's something I would do if I was a barbarian.
Yeah.
Alright. Shall we move on to the next?
Yeah, let's move on.
Alright. So 7th level, we get Feral Instinct. You gain advantage on initiative rolls, which is awesome. Basically ensures that you are moving as quickly as possible, which as a barbarian you want to do, because you want to be going first, killing things before they can kill you or your party members. If the barbarian is surprised at the beginning of combat and aren't incapacitated, which they can't be, so I don't even know why that's in the rule, the barbarian can act normally, but only if they enter rage before doing anything else that turn. That secondary part is a bit... Oh no, surprised. So if someone sneaks up on you, if they could just go into a rage and be like, nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not their best feature. Gaining advantage on initiative rolls is amazing, but it's alright. What do you reckon?
I think it's alright. Like, it's one of those abilities that you might use every so often, but it's going to be situational, depending on the setting, where you're going, what's happening in your party.
I mean, it wouldn't be that situational. Gaining advantage on initiative checks is going to happen a heap. But the other part, the surprise part, is it's not going to be super useful unless you're getting snuck up on, and most of the time you'll be fine because you'll have rages around.
Yeah.
It basically means the barbarian can't be snuck up on, which is another pain in the ass for dungeon masters.
Walking, talking tank.
Yeah, are you seeing a theme here? Barbarians, fucking.
And like, we might be going into a lot of this stuff, and people are going, it's complicated. How am I going to remember? Like, this is an easy class, and it all melts together, and the themes and overtones, and we're going
think about it. It's like, even the more complicated classes, they're not really going to be complicated if you really invest yourself into them anyway.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. All right, so next level, we have another level up again. Ability score. You know, you do the standard thing: strength, constitution, bog standard, or whatever else you want if you want to make a theme going. So let's choose another feat. I'll go with my first one this time, just because I have it here.
Different?
Grappler. So they develop the skills necessary to hold your own in close quarters. Grappling, you can gain the following benefits. You have advantage on attack rolls against a creature you are grappling. So if you grapple someone, you can then punch them in the face pretty easily. You can use your action to try and pin a creature grappled by you. To do so, you make another grapple check, and if you succeed, you and the creature are both restrained until the grapple ends. And that works really well if Dungeon Masters use the rule coup de grace, which means you can instantly kill a person that is incapacitated, which I run. So that just allows the barbarian to run up, incapacitate a person, and then have like the rogue stab it in the gut a bunch of times or something like that, which I think is really cool, and it makes the barbarian a bit more versatile. And then the last one is creatures that are one size larger than you don't automatically succeed on checks to escape your grapple. It's just for a bit of fun. I don't think it's like super overpowered or anything. I just think it would be cool to like have some wrestling skills.
This is one that I wouldn't necessarily go for, but it is one that I've always looked at and been like, I really want to take it, but I've never felt like I've been in a campaign where I can take advantage of it, apart from one, but I wasn't a barbarian at the time. Called Tavern Brawler. So accustomed to rough and tumble fighting, using whatever weapons happen to be at hand, you gain the following benefits. Increase your strength and constitution by 1 to a maximum of 20. When you're proficient with improvised weapons and unarmed strikes, your unarmed strikes uses a d4 damage, and when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike or improvised weapon on your turn, you can use a bonus action to attempt to grapple the target.
Oh my god,
so,
that
would the two that we like. Yeah.
That would synergize really well with Grappler.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
And
imagine having
like,
them in combination with one another. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
My one gripe is that unarmed strikes use a d4 for damage. They already do a d4 for damage.
Yeah, well, in certain classes it don't. It's like
okay.
It's like 1 point of damage unless you're proficient in unarmed strike.
I wouldn't mind that. Honestly, if someone wanted to make like a theme build, like a brawler, like a tavern brawler theme build, I would make their unarmed damage do like a d6 just to make it a more viable thing. So you could just run around punching people. That would be awesome. I would love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great feat.
Like, again, if you talk to your DM and you're like, this is what I want to do, they may end up giving you a feat-like ability on your first level, not to overpower you, but to kind of be like, this is your background. You've actually, like, you've thought, and this is, you might take a penalty later on, or like, because this is going to railroad you down these choices, then you're going to have to stick with it, but you get this benefit of having this.
Yeah.
Talk to your DM.
Make theme builds. Always talk to your DM. Always do it.
Yeah.
Never come to me out of the blue during a session being like, this is something that I just came up with. And I'm like, no, you didn't talk to me about this, and I don't know how to deal with it. Like, you have to give me some forewarning. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I love Tavern Brawler. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, moving on. 9th level.
Critical.
Oh, it's pretty straightforward.
It is.
It's amazing. You get to roll an additional weapon damage die when they critically hit. I mean, the likelihood of it happening isn't going to be a tremendous amount. I mean, you do have double the chance to score a crit with Barbarians. I know you can score a crit on 19. I think it's with Battle Axes. Yeah. I think something about the Battle Axes allows you to crit with 19 and a 20. But yeah, I mean, if you crit, you just it's damaging for lack of a better word. But yeah,
and then you get an additional dice again on the 13th, and then an additional dice again on the 17th level. So you are just like everything we've already talked about, all the damage you're already doing, and then just bang, bang, bang. Yeah. Each roll is just this critical. As I said right at the beginning, some of these glass cannons that you can be literally one-shotting like a dragon.
Yeah.
The barbarian on their one turn where they get like 6 attacks and they're doing critical damage, and then they're also doing Great Weapon Master where they plus 10 to their freaking weapon.
The thing
and
is,
then it's just like...
those glass cannons, they can deal shitloads of damage, but I don't think they will be able to like one-shot one of those elite creatures. Whereas the barbarian... especially a berserker barbarian that is in a frenzied state with great weapon master or whatever it was called, genuinely has a good chance of slaying a dragon in one turn. It's awesome. It's amazing. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Again, very simple barbarians. Alright, so 10th level, primal path deviations. Path of the berserker. Yep. This is where berserkers start to get a pretty fun sort of like role-playing thing. And this is something that my berserker barbarian, my charisma berserker barbarian in one of my groups did. And he did it because of this one ability, Intimidating Presence. So the barbarian can choose to use an action to frighten someone with their intimidating presence. And when choosing to do so, they choose one creature that the barbarian can see within 30 feet. If the creature can see or hear the barbarian, just hear it. It must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, which is DC, the DC being 8 plus the barbarian's proficiency bonus plus their charisma modifier. So that's an excuse to raise your charisma modifier. And then they're frightened until the end of the barbarian's next turn. And on subsequent turns, the barbarian can use its action to extend a duration, blah, 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 all of that nonsense. If the creature succeeds the saving throw, you can't then frighten it again. And frightened creatures have disadvantage on ability checks, attack rolls, and attack rolls while the source of its fear is within its line of sight. In this particular case, this is just me, another personal Pitmidget ruling. I would also include the hearing distance as well, because the wording of the ability itself allows the effect to be within reasonable grounds. Because it says, you frighten something that can see or hear you. You know what I mean? Mm. So just in this instance, I would allow that to happen. And the creature can't willingly move closer towards the source of the fear. So imagine, like, wandering up. Like, you're delving a dungeon in the middle of the Underdark, and then suddenly there's a beholder there, mighty and terrifying, and you just, like, stare it down straight off the bat, and it can't do anything because it's so afraid of you. It's amazing, and it's surprisingly effective. I think it's a really cool feat. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
And another benefit of the Spirit Walker. So at the 10th level, you can cast Commune with Nature spell, but only a ritual, which usually takes about 10 minutes. You just need to take the time aside. Spirit castings, ritual castings usually just takes about 10 minutes.
Yep.
Spirit version of one of the animals you choose, totem animal, spirit of the aspect of the beast appears to you in conveying the information you seek.
Yeah,
it's like just having this.
It's pretty cool.
Bear roll.
Do you have the spell up? I have the spell here.
Yes, I do.
You wanna... Oh, cool.
Commune with Nature. Casting time 1 minute, but as a ritual, it is 10 minutes. Range components, visual and S again, verbal and something else.
Usually, I just
duration instantaneous.
The weird thing about components and stuff, I don't really abide by them too much. Usually, I just make my players describe what they do rather than just be like, I have a pinch full of salt in my back pocket and like the eye of a newt and stuff like that.
I'm more talking about the times when without getting too sidetracked. Let's say someone's trying to I'm going to stealthily cast a spell. Well, does the spell rely on verbally casting something before it actually happens? Yes, also ritual takes 10 minutes, so it's not always going to work. But it is also keeping that in mind and being aware of that can be a nice little gimmick you can play with as a GM.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But usually the casting time for rituals isn't going to be too much of an issue unless you're trying to cast a ritual in the middle of combat, which can happen, of course. Yeah. It's very unlikely to. But yeah, otherwise it doesn't really matter too much. Anyway, sorry, I'm just nitpicking at this point.
You briefly become one with nature, gain knowledge of the surrounding territory the outdoors. The spell gives you knowledge and land within 3 miles of you, which, if you're in the middle of the jungle and you need food, water, supplies, as Pitmidget was literally like, I like having realistic supplies and you don't eat or something like that, you're going to get exhaustion.
Yep.
Good fun to actually have that information and have that at hand. So keep that in mind.
Yep.
Natural underground settings. The radius is limited to 300 feet. The spell does not function when nature has been replaced by construction, such as dungeons and towns. You instantly gain knowledge up to 3 facts for your choice about any of the following subjects relating to the area: terrain or bodies of water, prevalent plants, materials, animals, or peoples, powerful celestial phase, fiends, elementals, or undeads, influence from other planes of existence, and buildings. Which is like dope if you're lost in the middle of the jungle
It's excellent.
and you need to know where something is.
It's dope if you just like, if you're like really interesting, because I have a pretty well fleshed out world by this point that has areas that have influences from other planes. So if someone used that and they were like pretty close to it, like for example, I have an area called the Shimmering Green, which is like one of the most ancient places on the planet of Vijdis, and it's a part of the Feywild, and it's if someone was to use Commune with Nature after just like stumbling in it for the first time, they'll be like, yeah, well, you can sense the Fey. And then people will be like, whoa, it's cool. I love it. I think it's great. It's also just great if you're in a tight spot. Like, I like to get my players lost while they're traveling. If they choose to take a shortcut through the highlands or like through the woods or something, and they fail all their survival checks or and stuff like that, and they get lost, something like this GM can really help them.
If you do have a GM like Pitmidget, they do have the tendency of letting you get lost for any reason. Having an ability like this is so key.
Yeah, it really is. Because I have a lot of
and always think about this because they're not gonna be remembering that they're gonna get lost.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's also I love spells like this as well, because it allows me to utilize tables that I come up with as well. They're like, oh well, we're lost. Let's use Commune with Nature, and then I can like roll on my tables and be like, oh look, there's a tribe of gnolls over here or something like that. Or look, there's a vein of ore, or like say they're out of food and they need to go hunting. It's like, yep, you can see several herds of deer or something like that. It has so many applications. It's just really good, really really good.
Goblins you can eat or whatever.
Goblins,
depending on how messed up depending on how messed up your character is.
I wouldn't
you
need
can do whatever you want.
I wouldn't need both kinds of goblins in my setting. I wouldn't eat rootkin goblins because they're adorable. They're basically Ewoks, and rock goblins have poisonous
I would
blood.
want to make a character that Ewoks. Like,
dude, your pirate character kicked the shit out of the Ewok, and just like mentally abused it all the time. You were close enough.
Yeah, we'll deal with that when we get to the.
Oh man, I love that guy.
Yeah.
You were so mean to him.
Do what you're comfortable with, and if
I like it was great though. I wasn't mad at you in any way. I thought it was funny. It's like that guy just had a really rough time of it. Like in between your like savage beatings and like gratuitous insults, and Sahi the Mage's like also insults. he only had the cleric to take consolation in. Anyway, that's like
it was just a consequential background of my background that I chose. When all beings that are deemed lower than you are trash to you, and you must treat them accordingly. Yeah. So I did.
And the fact that you had another high elf that thought exactly the same shit. He was like, yeah, these guys are scum. Yeah. Like, fuck these.
Yeah.
Poor Glorp. Oh, whatever his name was. Splug, yeah. That's it. His name was Splug. Little Splug.
But let's get back on track.
Yes, my apologies.
Do you want to do the next one?
Yeah, I'll do the next one. So, Relentless Rage, 11th level. Relentless Rage! If the Barbarian... Well, basically, Half-Orcs already have this, don't they? If the Barbarian's HP drops to 0 while raging, the Barbarian doesn't die. they can make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. So half-orcs don't need to worry about this one.
No.
But for anyone that
It's
isn't
just-
a half-orc, it gives them that half-orc ability. But each time they use it, or I suppose it gives half-orc the option to redo that. Because you can...
So it's that double.
So, yeah, double for half-orc.
You've got the racial one, and then you've got Relentless Rage, which is another ability.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty good.
it depends on how the GM rules it. So yeah.
No, well, I mean, that's exactly how it is ruled. Because
Yeah.
the half-orc one, you have to take a long rest before you can use it again. But
Yeah.
that you can
This
still
one's
use
every-
this one. And
Yeah.
you can use this one as many times as you want. It's just that the DC increases by 5 each time, with a baseline DC
So
being
you could
10.
use your racial one first, and you're not going to be hitting your DC Constitution this one, and the next one you redo it, and you've got that.
Yeah, it's
So
great.
you've got 2 chances to basically get knocked down and get back up again. No one's going to keep you down.
I get
So-
knocked down, and I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. Well, I don't even know what they say. Chumbawamba, though. Best band ever. All right. And then next level 14, we have another ability score improvement or feat.
Mm-hmm.
What's another feat? I reckon I reckon the feats that we've chosen are probably the best ones that you could probably choose.
For like, I might quickly go through just a few without actually going to description. Other ones you can take are like alert, athlete.
Yeah, or athlete. Athlete would be phenomenal. Thinking
Yeah.
about it, athlete would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would totally go athlete. That's the one I probably would have chosen. Actually, dual wielder would be amazing. So dual wielder.
The other one I can kind of see is durable. It should be another one to take.
Yeah, dude, dual wielder would be brilliant for a berserker barbarian because you gain +1 bonus to AC, which is amazing. You gain use of 2 weapon fighting even when the other one-handed melee weapon you aren't wielding isn't light. Sorry, that made sense. Shut up. And you can draw or stow 2 one-handed weapons, so it basically makes the barbarian class a little bit more interesting than just great axe every time. It means you can switch it up and be like, haha, well now I'm going around with 2 bastard swords and being able to attack 6 times with berserker bonus attack and half-orc savage attacks. Oh, delicious. I love it. And yeah, moving on from that, we have our 13th level brutal crit, 2 additional dice. After that, we have
The other thing you want to
Oh yeah, you go on.
just quickly back on, like, consider your balancing. So you may find that you've taken 2 or 3 feats at this point, and you might kind of go, I can take a feat, but you also need to keep in mind you might want to be hitting harder or have more health. So don't always look at feats.
I mean,
but you might just want to balance it out.
I say,
But you
why
might-
not?
Yeah.
Why not just stack feats all the time?
It's-
Because
I'm saying
there
it's fine to-
are several feats that improve your abilities anyway. Usually only by 1, but that 1 is enough.
Yeah.
And if you start, say, if you were rolling stats and you rolled particularly high already, and you didn't really need those those bases covered. That was dyslexic as fuck. It's good. Anyway, you by all means just go feed crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Be great.
all
That's
I'm
a
saying is
very
just
specific
find
circumstance.
The balance that's right for you. Yeah, but find the balance that's right for you is all I was trying to say, and trying to be like, don't feel like you have to take it if you don't feel like it'd be right for what you need, what you're looking for. But if you're going to go, I can take this feat and this feat and this feat, they give me everything I want, perfect, do it, done, set.
I do what I want.
Do what you want.
Yeah. Anyway, so 13th levels, just 2 dice brutal crit. Amazing. 14th level, path feature deviations. So Path of the Berserker, you get retaliation. When the barbarian takes damage from a creature that is within 5 feet of him, her, it, or them, the barbarian may use a reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. So 8 attacks when you're dual wielding. I mean,
do you remember?
no, not entirely. It's very specific. Maybe 8 attacks. in a specific circumstance. Very cool.
As we said at the beginning, Path of the Berserker is sometimes the easy one out, or it's seen as like the weakest of them all. But like if you're stacking possibly up to 8 attacks and like Great Weapon Master on top of that, and you're just this giant tank that hits hard and kills things, and you're rampant, and you've got all your rage damage as well on top of that, which has its own chart. So you're doing all that damage on top of it as well.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. It's a work of art. It truly is. Like as a DM, it makes a lot of boss fights quite trivial, but it's just like you can't help but just be in awe of the majesty, of the power of the crazy barbarian just whirling around, just a hurricane of death.
Hell scream.
Hell scream. Oh god, you had to pull out the fucking Warhammer references, damn. Oh dude. Oh wow.
So for the final attunement of the Totem Warrior, which gives you your final like attribute that'll give you at the 14th level, you get magical benefit based on the total animal of your choice.
Totemic
you choose the same animal.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. Totemic achievement.
Totemic achievement. I apologize.
I could speak.
You can choose. I'm also dyslexic sometimes.
Oh, dude, I'm 1,000 times more dyslexic than you. That's for sure. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so rude.
Jeez, man, you're so rude.
This is it, guys.
Oh my god.
This is when the podcast just goes off the rails and we just start talking over each other all the fucking time.
Yeah. Content is good. Everything is content. You can choose the same animal you selected previously or a different one as before. So the first one, of course, is the bear. When you're raging, any creatures within 5 feet of you that is hostile to you has disadvantage on attack rolls against against targets other than you or other characters with this feature. An enemy is immune to this effect if it can't see or hear you, or if it can't be frightened. Look, it's like that equivalent of being in like the presence, intimidating presence. It's just literally its own variant of it.
It's the taunt.
Yeah.
It's amazing, dude.
The
bear.
And then
aspect of the bear. Sorry.
Like, yeah. Aspect of the bear.
Aspect of the bear.
If you're stacking that with everything else that we talked about, like the hunting abilities of the wolf, and then having resistance to all damage, and then you're also this hostile, awesome thing that no one can freaking touch you. It's great.
Oh, it's great.
Oh, so hot. So good. So good.
Eagle!
While and then the eagle, which is probably going to be disappointing again. While reaching, you have flying speed equal to your current walking speed. Oh my god, I didn't even know about this one.
I love it.
This far.
I think it's awesome.
This benefit only works in short bursts. You fall at the end of your turn in the air. Fucking hell, you get to be a flying barbarian. Oh my god, the potential of a flying barbarian.
Yeah.
And the damage you could take.
Oh, dude, I was talking to I won't mention his name because I probably shouldn't mention people's names if I don't have their permission on the podcast, stuff like that. But he's a friend of mine that's in my group. I was talking to him about this the other day, and he was like, what if I wanted to fly up into the air and then stop flying and use the momentum to drop down with my axe? I was like, yeah, I could probably give you a bit of a strength bonus or something to the attack and give you an advantage just because of the gravitational force adding to the blow. I think it has great.
Yeah.
And also it basically trivializes leaping off cliffs and stuff. Like, say you had to jump over a chasm. Say you were holding off at the bridge of Khazad-dûm, and the Balrog is coming along. Gandalf has just shattered the bridge, and you were left on the other side, and you had to get across. You could just fly across.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
It's good.
I think it's cool. It doesn't have the most action-oriented use to it. which is what a barbarian is usually going to be all about. They're basically combat experts within the game.
But imagine if you grappled someone and then used this ability.
Oh my god,
and flew up in the air. Yeah, you've never thought about that?
No!
And then them, and then when they hit on the ground, you smash their face
Yeah.
and then attack them so many more
You're
times.
a genius!
Yeah, that's the thing you can freaking do.
That's
Never
amazing!
thought about that? Maybe tell you player.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Grappler, Tavern Brawler, Eagle Warrior. Dude, you could make a Lucador character.
Yeah, you really could.
I am El Toro.
El Toro!
El Toro, the winged one.
Yeah, the winged one who smashes people in the face
Oh,
with the ground.
That's so beautiful, dude. You're a genius, man. Excellent.
We're on the final one.
And wolves.
The wolves. When you're raging, you can use a bonus action on your turn to knock a large or smaller creature prone when you hit it with a melee weapon attack.
Honestly, that's amazing. Especially like I mentioned when I was talking about grappling, how I used the coup de grace rule. Having that is amazing, especially if you're a berserker and you could just knock down everyone around you and then allow the rest of your party to kill them instantly.
Yeah, because they get an automatic crit with their melee on the ground. So, yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mind you, like, obviously I rule that. Usually I only do mob type creatures get the coup de grace effect. But that's basically an instant street sweeper kind of thing. You go in, you charge in, you frenzy, you're an orc, you make multiple attacks. It doesn't even matter if you hit only one of them. That's going to be one on the ground while you're contending with the two, and that makes that one guy incredibly vulnerable to a coup de grace, which I think is an amazing application of the ability. All in all, like I can see why people would take Totem Warriors over Berserkers. Totem Warriors are amazing. They're great. You can do a lot with them. They're far more versatile. They're definitely the way to go if you want to make a tank barbarian, if no one else is fulfilling that role within the party already. And even then, no, it seems like a lot of fun. That's for sure. Alrighty, 15th level. Persistent
15.
Rage. Ooh. So Barbarian's Rage is so fierce that it will end only if the Barbarian falls unconscious, or if the Barbarian willingly chooses to end it. Which I think is actually... I don't think they thought about it when they came up with this, because at this stage they still have a limited amount of rages, but this gets rid of that because you could just always be raging, which is stupid. So sorry. Go. You go.
I for one game I was in years ago, I was early 5th edition. And I went, so I can rage whenever I want, and I can end it when I choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I raged all day, and we were having a shopping day.
Yep.
Literally, everyone's going around buying things, and I was raging the entire time.
I want to go home.
Amazing.
It
was amazing.
The thing is it doesn't make sense because rages are like outside of role playing and stuff like that. Raging is basically exclusively for combat situations. And this trivializes the fact that you have a set amount of rages until level 20 until you get unlimited rages. So it's a stupid ability. It doesn't make any sense. I feel like they didn't really think it through.
The only thing it counters is if you... I think one of the conditions of rage is if you don't attack or be attacked with something within a turn, your rage automatically ends.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I was thinking about that when you were saying you were going on a shopping day and just raging all day. Were you just running around punching storekeepers and stuff like that?
No, but that
like
gets rid of that.
And shit?
No, that that gets rid of that in that ability.
No, because no, that's not entirely true. Because the rage ends if you can't attack someone.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, but this ability is stupid. Yeah, if you willingly choose to end it. It's a stupid ability. It shouldn't be what it is. I have my own version of the ability that I play with my groups. And I'll read it now. It's my personal Pitmidget house rule. So, should my players choose to sustain a rage after 6 rounds in combat? 10 for Berserker Frenzied, and I'll go into that afterwards. I tend to make the Barbarian roll constitution checks of increasing difficulty thereafter every second round. So, technically you get 8 rounds. I should have typed 8 rounds. So you get 2 rounds of persistent rage straight off the bat. That's your persistent rage. You get 2 free rounds. After that, you have to start rolling DC checks, starting at 10, and suffering from exhaustion should they fail. The reason being that, 1, gritty realism in my campaigns, and the pure physical exertion of raging all the time would just be too much to keep up. Like, it would be exhausting. You would suffer exhaustive consequences. You're not superhuman, right? You are a being living in the confines of a universe that still has, exertion and mass and science. There's just magic involved as well. So, so my house rule, it makes you be able to continue raging for a great amount of time, because I rarely have seen more than 6 rounds in combat anyway.
You think you've got like 5 rages in a game, so if you end your rage anyway, you might as well just start another one.
You could just rage again, exactly.
Exactly.
So it's
then
like
you're not facing exhaustion that way.
Yep. And the house rule ends up making the decision to continue raging after that, like, 8 turns. A risk versus reward situation, and it makes for some, like, hectic make or break situations. My high level group really enjoys it. Because it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. It makes me think about. No, I was just waiting for a gap there. But I was thinking of like Kratos in God of War, because he can only go into a Spartan rage for like a minute or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got to consider the situation. You're only raging for a minute because your blood boils, your adrenaline goes mad. You go into a heightened state of fight or flight, so you fight it, but that fades. You're not going to be angry.
Yeah, you can't just keep up a state of constant adrenaline all the time. It doesn't make any sense. And also, I let my frenzied berserkers go up to 10 because they already get the inherent exhaustion.
Yeah.
So they get 10 free turns of raging, and after that 10th turn, they start the DC check, whereas after 8 turns, other barbarians start the checks. But I just think it's a good way to... Because it's not really a nerf at all. I mean, it is a nerf, but it still gives you the opportunity to continue the rage for a consistent amount of time. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And it makes complete sense, but that's also the power of being a GM. You can make those kind of rules. It's everyone's their own world. So if you find this rule to be awesome and you're happy with it, keep it. Yeah. If you want to make it more gritty and realistic, you can do what you want. It's the rule of cool. The rules are there to help you, guide you. But
absolutely. And like there's other rules that I've thought about. Like I've chosen persistent rage to be persistent throughout an entire combat. So if the combat goes after 6, like for more than 6 rounds, you can just continue rage. But as soon as the combat ends, it just doesn't make sense to just be constantly raging all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just silly. Yeah. It's just silly. But yeah, other than that, pretty cool ability. It's just it's like they left it as an afterthought. They didn't really think about it too much.
Probably got a couple that we can just quickly speed through.
We have the ability one, ability feat, what have you. We've been through our chosen ones. I don't think we really need to go through that again. 17th level, we get brutal crit, 3 dice. Yep, 3 extra dice for crits. Fun. 18th level, we get Indomitable Might.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
That's an easy one. Your strength checks is less than your strength total. It is awesome. Your strength score could be in the dirt, and you could end up having that
Ooh.
instead. Yeah, good, nice and easy.
Just a bit
And
of
it's
a caveat. You can't use the feature to override a natural one because natural ones take precedence. Just
natural
a
one
natural one is always going to be a failure, just as a natural 20 is always a success. I had the barbarian in my high level group try and convince me otherwise. Any DMs
natural
that are
one is a natural failure.
if anyone is a DM and someone tries to convince you of something like that, say fuck off. Say no, that's not how it works. But yeah, great. It's honestly a great ability though.
Yeah,
it's so good. Yep. Ability score after that. Woo. And then 20th level. Primal Champion. Woo! The barbarian embodies the pure power of the wilds. It gains strength and constitutions. It gains 4 strength and constitution. So if you're already capped at 20 for strength and constitution, which you probably should be at that point anyway, you get to 24 strength and 24 constitution. You become an unstoppable killing machine. You've done it. You survived for this long. You are the mightiest barbarian the world has likely ever seen. And kudos to you for even getting to 20th level, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it would be glorious. It would be glorious. Lovely. Pretty tangible.
And that's the barbarian.
That's a barbarian.
In all honesty, that's...
Woo!
If you get to level 20 and you get to have that fun getting 24 strength and constitution, oh my god. And you're the path of the berserker. And you're getting 8 attacks a turn with your extra damage.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Just think of the possibilities.
Yeah.
You're basically a god at that point.
Oh, yeah, dude, absolutely. You totally are. You are a god. You are the primal champion. Flying over cliffs. Flying up into the air and like pile driving people into the ground. Yeah. Dude, I love that idea so much. I can't believe I didn't think about that.
Might just have to drop that to your player and be like, oh, if someone went flying.
No. I'm gonna have to. That's my secret now. He can come to it of his own volition, but I'm keeping that one for myself because I want to make my own barbarian as like a villain or something that does that.
Yeah. Just do it to the other barbarian and watch fates go. Oh,
yeah, totally. Yeah, that's exactly what I'll be. Oh, dude, I've come up with the perfect scenario for it as well. Genius.
Good.
Genius. Alrighty, dudes, dudettes, lads, ladettes, glimglams and glorpnocks.
This has been the Barbarian.
This has been Bumbling Barbarians, episode 1 of the Ghetto Vodcast podcast by the Witchbolt Wanderers. We hope you have enjoyed listening to 2 hours and 17 minutes of us rambling and nerding the fuck out. Dude, we need a sign out.
Yeah.
What should our sign? What should the official Witchbolt Wanderers sign out be?
This is Witchbolt Wanderers. Stay.
Nah, that's too generic.
Too generic.
Yeah.
We'll have to come up with something.
I know. How about on the count of 3, we just yell Witchbolt Wanderers? How about this has been Witchbolt Wanderers? Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah. 1,
2, 3.
2, 3. This
has been Witchbolt Wanderers. Yow! Cheers, dudes. Peace. Oh yeah, Pitmidget, pirate. Goodbye.
Drunken Pirate.
We love you.
Out.
Oh wait! Before we sign out, our next video is going to be about monks, manic monks.
Yeah.
Wait, was it manic
monks?
Was it manic monks?
It wasn't manic monks. It was, masterful monks.
Masterful manic
monks.
Monkey monks. Oh yeah. I look forward to it.
All right.
Peace. Cheerio.